ni wewe walefuaya kafa wabalanda wewe umfokulira kwa bantu kasama yuti bonse batinda be abakulu n'abana bonse bashitata n'abana bayo balelira we mwamba kasama ilefuaya iwe wile webo weshi mwamba leka experience olakale webo mwamba Emmanuel bonse bakasama balefuaya mwamba Emmanuel
Good day. Today we've chosen to reflect on the upcoming year. I think it will be a very difficult year for our people. I think it will be a challenging year and there are very little prospects. I say this because of the manner we have started. I've looked at the national budget. I saw a town hall recently by the Minister of Finance and his team and the recent visit by the head of state to Angola, and the two upcoming international visits by the IMF president, who's coming in a week's time or so, and the Secretary to Treasury, Janet Yellen, who's coming from the US. If you look at all this, you can predict where the year is going. But I was rather surprised to see a visit by the president to Angola. The usual issue of a pipeline, and the issue of the pipeline from Angola has been on the cards since 2009 to my knowledge, and there have been various MOUs that have been signed regarding this. There's a fresh issue where the president pledged to invest 15% in a refinery that Angola will be setting up in Lobito. Well, first of all, Angola has a fuel crisis. They could be one of the largest producers of oil in the world, but they have a fuel crisis for various reasons. They don't have adequate refinery capacity. Two, they've been struggling. The economy has been struggling with the issues of foreign exchange, debt, foreign debt, and other issues, and they've some long-standing fuel crisis themselves. So this plan to put up a refinery in Lobito is welcome, and Zambia is pledging to invest 15% into that refinery. But my question is, Zambia, you already have a refinery, a working refinery, a good refinery. You already have a pipeline in Tazama, a working pipeline. It has gone under rehabilitation, where 700 kilometers of the pipeline has been rehabilitated and upgraded, and you are remaining with about 1,000 kilometers of it to be rehabilitated. Why would you want to start up a new pipeline in Angola, in Walvis Bay? They say Angola is all producers, so we should have a pipeline. Come on. The producers of oil are many, including Nigeria and Africa, including Sudan. And then when you go to Middle East, you go then to Russia, you go even to the US. There are many producers of oil. What you need is a working refinery that can refine any oil from Angola, from Nigeria, from Saudi Arabia, from Ukraine, from Iran, from Russia. That is what you need to build your refining capacity. It doesn't matter where your oil is coming from. So this fascination of a pipeline from Walvis Bay, Namibia, or from Angola, I do not get it. You already have a pipeline, a working pipeline, docked at a port, an international port in Dar es Salaam. Why don't you utilize it? Why do you want to turn Indeni into a blender, but you are quick to try to invest in another refinery in Angola. Why would you do that? You have your own refinery. It needs $500 million to upgrade it to an international refinery that can refine any crude oil. $500 million. That's what we need. $500 million. But no, ZESCO owes Mwamba Collieries $500 million, and it's going to pay. We owe the oil marketing companies $500 million, and government is going to pay. Why can't we find $500 million for Indeni refinery, that it becomes a proper, fully fledged refinery? Of course, this is why we need to ask when these deals are occurring. I was rather surprised that the president took, in the midst of these challenges, took this trip to Angola. You have load shedding of up to 12 hours or more, but you decide in the midst of it, in the midst of your people suffering, to take a foreign trip. What set of priorities are those? Let's come up. The other day, I heard the Minister of Finance hold what he's calling a town hall meeting. He was reviewing the national budget for 2022, and he was projecting what is going to be done in the 2023 budget. Well, the trouble with this is that I've attempted to go there, but I don't find them useful. And this is even strengthened when I see people that come from the so-called civil society and that come from independent voices speak at the town hall meetings. They are just parrots. They parrot what the minister will say, what the minister wants to hear. They praise the minister what needs to be done, and the budgeting process is not criticized. The failure of the 2021-2022 budget is not brought into sharp focus. The 2022 budget has not, its weaknesses and failures and non-deliverables are not reflected upon, and you just have these praises of CDF, when the country had a huge crisis in the health sector, where we didn't have medicines, medical supplies, laboratory reagents, and equipment failure. They were 1.5 years. Yet you see people parrot how government release money for the health sector. We have a crisis in the education sector. While rolling out free education, our classrooms are crowded. We urgently need those expansion of 1x3 or 1x6 classrooms to decongest those classrooms. Our teachers and school administrators are crying that they're being given little money that can't even meet their monthly costs, such as running of the school, paying for water, paying for electricity, paying for clerical works, guards, cleaners, and other things, and there's even no money for stationery. Yet we see people praise and praise. CDF, the so-called CDF, where only 4% has been utilized. Either the MP has bought a grader, and there's a car that has come from Ministry of Local Government for monitoring, and the 1.8 million grant that was given. But this is 25.6 million sitting in banks, 25.6 million sitting at provincial centers, and it hasn't been utilized. And you have people praising CDF, not highlighting the bottlenecks, not promoting capacity and absorption capacity that this money can be utilized. So for that reason, I don't go there. What were the failures of the budget? Honorable Musokotwane, Dr. Situmbeko Musokotwane, this is his third budget in this government. Remember, as soon as they came into office in 2021, he delivered the 2021 budget. 2022 budget, the one that has passed, and now he has presented the third one, 2023 budget. What was the achievement in the other budgets? What can you account for the achievement in the other budgets? I wish that those town hall meetings could have people that can reflect seriously on the weaknesses of our budgets and budgeting system. They appear just to be numbers that don't change lives, that don't change the country. I saw the releases that have been done by the Ministry of Finance for this year. Again, pitiful amounts to the suppliers and contractors. Very little. You owe 77 million, you release 600 million kwacha. From 77, it's not even 1% that you are releasing into the economy. So how does that help our stranded suppliers and contractors. You release very little money. The numbers might look sounding, but in comparison to the work that needs to be done, you realize it is nothing. So the budget reflection for 2023 remains for me of great concern. The budget delivery and translation into actual projects, and also commitments that have been done to institutions like infrastructure development. Very pitiful, very little amount. The visits that are upcoming, the IMF president will be in the country. She's already issued a statement bemoaning that up to now the creditors committee has not met, and is saying it's hoping that China will be in the creditors committee when they meet in February. The IMF bailout is far, far from delivery to this country. We've had this discussion from December 3rd, when there was this huge announcement by the IMF that a staff level agreement had been agreed with Zambia and there'll be a bailout of $1.3 billion. Well, it's one year, many months later, from 3rd December 2021, and nothing has been done. The issue, the bottleneck, is the creditors committee. What's with the creditors committee? You have China. What is with China? China is your largest single creditor on that list. That is why we always say a visit by the president to China would have helped. A visit heightened political and diplomatic engagement with China would have helped, because your biggest bottleneck to your foreign debt is China. They are your single largest creditor. You have, if you are seeking debt restructuring, debt write-off, if you are seeking that this debt be restructured, China becomes key. Yes, the Eurobond, a collection of small holders and small savers that then form, go to an agent who then sell you the Eurobond. They are very important. Yes, there's one that was due last year in August. We missed the deadline for the 750 million Eurobond. There's one that is due next year and in 2025. And the grace period that was obtained by Honorable Bwalyangandu in 2020, when he did what you call a default, there were 48 countries that applied. In light of the COVID pandemic crisis, we need to suspend our debt service. And the G20 framework, World Bank and IMF approved it. It is for that reason that we haven't been servicing our debt from 2020 when Dr. Bwalyangandu applied. The very default that you are mocked on, that they mock Zambia on and the PF that they defaulted, well, it was applied for under the G20 debt service agreement sustainability framework. And Zambia is among 48 countries that was approved to suspend its debt service. So we're not paying debts to China, to Europe, Eurobond, World Bank, IMF. We're not paying anyone for the last 3 years. The surplus that this government gets every year is because they are not meeting that service, debt service obligation. But the clock is ticking. This year is the last one. And we've accumulated over $1.3 billion in those debt service. If we don't get a debt write-off, we don't get a proper debt restructure, this government will be in a huge crisis this year, because at the end of the year, they are required to begin servicing their debt. The IMF bailout must succeed. They must persuade China, who is a co-chair with France on behalf of the Paris Club and other European creditors. They must persuade China to attend to the concerns of the debt write-off. But with this arm's length we are dealing with China, we are going nowhere. I urge the president to take a visit to China. I urge the president to ensure that diplomatic engagement with China are heightened until we resolve this debt crisis. This swooning we are doing with New York and Washington serves us no purpose. Lastly, there is an announcement by the Minister of Finance that Cabinet recently approved that electricity tariffs must go up, and they must go up by 17% over a period of 5 years. Government wants to migrate the current tariffs to what they're calling cost-reflective tariffs. Well, and they claim that for us to acquire investment, for us to get this foreign investment in the sector, we need to increase the price of electricity. I looked at the cost of service study that was commissioned by the Energy Regulation Board that was submitted to Cabinet for approval. And I've looked at the green paper where government responded to this cost of service study in the electricity sector. And one of the issues, there are good issues there, that we need about $14 billion to increase our generation from 4,000 megawatts to about 8,000 to 10,000 megawatts. Good ambition. That with government's plans to scale up mining up to 3 million tons per year of copper, in the mining sector, yes, you need proper power generation. And with our ambition in the agriculture sector, you need our farmers who are mechanized and who need all that power to be given. The ambitions are very good, but they are saying to get this, you need the private sector to come in. You need ZESCO to have a revenue in excess of $1 billion to $1.4 billion a year. Hence, where is the burden? They are saying the burden should be on you and me. We should pay a cost-reflective tax. Sadly, they are reducing the price of electricity to the agricultural sector and to the mining sector. So these giants who pay very little tariffs to electricity, but you and me, we should have that gradual increase up to 17% by the end of 5 years. It will be a multi-year plan that every year they are gradually increasing until they reach that target. But there should be a reduction to huge, users of electricity, such as the mining sector, those bulk demand users of power, and those that have power purchase agreement should have lower tariffs. How unfair it is. When I need to very high at the mining sector and other sectors should pay very low. But that's what the minister announced, and you should look at the cost of service study. And for me, there are concerns there. How did the PF increase power generation from 1,600 megawatts to 3,500 megawatts without necessarily increasing your price of tariffs? Yes, there were marginal increases, but it was not brought to the amounts that this government is talking about. They want you to bear the good. This is a public good. Can't ZESCO invest in generation? Do you need this predatory private sector to sign these unfair agreements with ZESCO, where ZESCO is subsidizing independent power producers as it is doing now? ZESCO is subsidizing CEC. They give them power at very little amount. And then the CEC is selling to the mining sector at a huge profit, paper profit. The ZESCO buys from Mwamba collieries at very high price, or whether it is stage power or Lunsemfwa, very high price, and is selling the power to you at cheaper price and suffering the shocks of that difference. ZESCO should not be made to run like that. Whoever wants to produce power in Zambia must produce it at a fair price. They must produce it at a fair price that ZESCO can buy. If you're forcing ZESCO to buy using an uneconomical tariffs, we will be killing ZESCO like we are killing ZESCO. Right now, it owes $1 billion to these independent power suppliers. That is not development. We need to look at it properly. So, with a few issues that we've tackled, but to kick off the year, I thought we could discuss all this. Until next time, God bless you. God bless our country. This is a wealthy country, one of the richest in the world in resource endowment. And we shouldn't let our people be poor, our people be unemployed because of poor planning, poor policies, and exploitative investment that comes from foreign entities. God bless you and see you next time.